The last sound you would have heard was the water, not the crash of it, not the splash, but the silence just before it swallowed everything. Because every one of these stories begins the same way. Ordinary people, ordinary days, until something old, something patient, finally decided it was time to be remembered. Tonight, as 2026 begins, these are 3 terrifying true stories pulled from history, folklore, and documented mystery. Stories that linger long after the lights are off. Story 1. The Bells That Rang Underwater. Cardigan Bay looks peaceful if you don't know what you're standing on. Wide, gray-blue water stretching toward the horizon, gulls circling lazily, fishing boats rocking gently as they always have. For centuries, this coast of Wales fed families, built towns, and swallowed secrets. But the old people never called it peaceful. They called it hungry. In January of 1910, the bay was unusually calm. No wind, no swell, the kind of stillness sailors distrust instinctively. Evan Griffith felt the moment he stepped onto his boat that morning, an uneasy quiet that pressed against the ears. "Feels wrong," his crewmate Reese muttered, tightening a rope, like the sea's holding its breath. Evan laughed it off, but his hands shook as he checked the nets. He'd grown up hearing the stories. Every Welsh child had. Stories of Canar Gwaelod, the Lowland Hundred, a kingdom said to have stretched across the bay, fertile and rich, guarded by stone floodgates, and destroyed in one night. Most dismissed it as folklore, a moral tale about arrogance. But fishermen didn't dismiss things so easily. They listened to the sea. Mid-morning, as fog rolled low across the water, the sound came. At first, Evan thought it was inside his head, a pressure change, maybe. Then Reese froze. "Evan," he whispered, "don't move." The sound rose again. Deep, slow, metallic. A bell, not one bell, several. They rang as if from a great distance, their tones warped by water, yet unmistakable. Church bells, large ones, tolling in no pattern Evan recognized. Reese crossed himself. That's not possible. The ringing lasted nearly a minute before sinking back into silence. No echo, no explanation. When they returned to shore, the village was already buzzing. Other fishermen had heard it too. Some refused to speak. Others argued fiercely, insisting it was currents, rocks, imagination. But then the tide began to pull back, and it did not stop. By late afternoon, the sea had withdrawn so far that children walked where no one had ever walked before. Wet sand stretched endlessly. Shallow pools shimmered under weak winter sunlight. And then someone screamed. Stone jutted from the sand, not random stones, but shaped ones, foundations, walls, corners meeting at right angles. A road, straight, deliberate. Old men fell silent. Evan felt his stomach drop as he followed the road inland, toward where the sea should have been deepest. More structures emerged, collapsed door frames, remnants of hearths, stones arranged too carefully to be natural. "This was a town," Reese whispered. "No," an elderly woman said behind them. "It was a kingdom." That night, no one slept. The oldest villagers gathered in a candlelit hall, recounting the story exactly as it had been passed down. Prince Seithanin, tasked with closing the floodgates each night. A man known for drink, arrogance, and laughter. One stormy night, he forgot. The sea rushed in. Bells rang as water climbed church walls. People drowned in their beds in the streets, clutching children as the kingdom vanished beneath the waves. "They say," the woman continued, voice shaking, "that on calm nights the bells still ring, so the dead are not forgotten." Evan dreamed of stone streets submerged in black water, people walking calmly, hair floating, eyes open, bells swinging overhead, ringing without sound, and something else, something moving beyond the buildings, watching. When he woke, his ears were ringing. 3 days later, fisherman Ianto Price went out alone. His boat was found drifting at dawn, nets intact, oars in place. No sign of struggle. Ianto was never found, but the ship's bell bolted to the mast was missing. To this day, sonar surveys of Cardigan Bay reveal unnatural stone alignments beneath the water. Archaeologists say fish weirs. The fishermen still say something else. They say the bells are not ringing for the past. They're ringing for the future. Story 2. The Smiling Man of Kyoto. Kyoto in the winter of 1702 was a city built on ritual. Lanterns were lit at the same hour every evening. Temple bells rang with disciplined precision. Shoes were placed neatly at doorways. Even fear had its place, spoken of softly, never directly. That is why the first sightings were dismissed. A merchant seeing a stranger smile too long. A servant girl feeling watched in an alley. A monk sensing something wrong and refusing to name it. Fear, after all, was considered contagious. The first written account appears in the personal diary of Hoshino Tadakatsu, a silk merchant whose journal survived today in fragments. On the 9th day of the 11th month, he wrote, "I passed a man beneath the lantern near Sanjo Street. He smiled as if greeting a friend, yet I felt cold. I bowed. He bowed. His smile did not move." Hoshino described the man in careful detail. Clean kimono, average height, hair tied correctly. Nothing monstrous, nothing improper, except the smile. Too wide, too fixed, unresponsive to emotion. The next night, Hoshino avoided the street. The night after that, a tea house girl named Aiko failed to return home. Her body was found near the Kumo River at dawn. No wounds, no bruises, no blood. But her face was locked into a grotesque grin. Lips stretched until the skin split at the corners. The coroner noted severe jaw dislocation, as if the muscles had been forced to hold expression far beyond human endurance. Rumors spread quietly. The tea houses whispered. Mothers kept children indoors after dusk. Priests burned incense longer than usual. Then came the second body, and the third, all smiling. A monk from Kenninji Temple recorded his encounter in a temple log meant never to be read aloud. He wrote that while returning from evening prayers, he noticed a man standing perfectly still in the snow. "I greeted him," the monk wrote. "He smiled. I asked his name. He asked me why I hide my fear." The monk fled, heart racing, convinced he encountered a yokai, a spirit that fed not on flesh, but on emotion. By early spring, 7 people were dead. The authorities blamed hysteria, a shared delusion. They ordered lanterns brighter, patrols stronger. Guards were posted in the Gion district, where sightings were most frequent. And then one night, the guards followed him. They watched the smiling man walk calmly through the narrow streets, never hurried, never turning his head. He led them to a dead-end alley. They rounded the corner. He was gone. In his place lay an object wrapped in cloth. A mirror, old, bronze-backed, cracked straight through the center. The guards later testified that when they looked into it, they saw themselves smiling, slowly, unwillingly, until one dropped it and shattered the glass. After that night, the death stopped. But Kyoto never forgot. To this day, there are streets where shopkeepers close early. Locals say mirrors are covered at night, not for superstition, but caution, because according to folklore recorded decades later, the Warai Otoko does not kill. He reflects, and when you see the smile, it's already too late. Story 3. The Mind That Wouldn't Stay Silent. Stoll's Ridge, Pennsylvania, was never meant to last. By 1897, it was a town carved into the earth for one purpose. Coal, rows of identical houses, a single church, a single bar, everything coated in black dust that never fully washed away. The men who worked Shaft 7 joked that the mine had a personality. She groans when she's hungry, they said. She whispers when she's angry. On November 14th, 12 men descended at dawn. By noon, the foreman noticed something strange. The vibration gauges, new instruments installed just months earlier, were spiking rhythmically, not randomly, not violently, rhythmically. Then the communication line went dead. By evening, the entrance had collapsed inward, crushed as if the mine itself had clenched shut. Rescue took 2 days. When they broke through, they expected bodies. Instead, they found the men standing. All 12 were upright, facing the same tunnel wall, hands pressed flat against stone, eyes open, Breathing shallow but steady. When rescuers shouted, the men screamed, not in pain, in terror. Doctors later documented total deafness in every survivor, ruptured eardrums with no external trauma. One miner, Thomas Keel, managed to write before destroying the paper in a fit of panic. It learned our names. It spoke them from the walls. The men were never the same. Some took their own lives. Others fled town. None ever returned underground. The mine was sealed with concrete, but townspeople still reported hearing tapping beneath their feet at night. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 more. Today, seismic sensors still record vibrations under site. Engineers say it's geological settling. Locals say it's something else. They say the mine remembers the sound of voices, and it's still listening.